You asked, what does a feminist poet look like? And I want to say that we are not one. Indeed, we are multifarious. I want to reply to this question of who we are more by exploring notions of what we are and how that affects our and my methods. I will attempt to explain this through using quotes from the work of Lucy Gray and money quoting as they affect my own work. Indeed, I am ventriloquizing their notions here for you. But let's start from the space of the initial question of our look, the being seen. We are both visible and yet invisible. We are nothing to be seen, and this has its disadvantages, but many advantages. In agreeing the speculum of the other woman says, the idea that a nothing to be seen might have some reality would be intolerable to man. In this virtual space, I am not one. In agree speaks of this she, indeed she is the whole project. She meaning me and us, does not set herself up as a one, single, female unit. She is not closed up, or nouned, one single truth or essence. The essence of a truth remains foreign to her. She neither has nor is a being. And she does not oppose a feminine truth to a masculine truth. The female sex takes place by embracing itself, by endlessly sharing and exchanging its lips, its edges, its borders, and their content, as it ceaselessly becomes her. No stability or essence is proper to her. Margaret Atwood in her Handmaid's Tale relays a joke that is said at the expense of woman, but that instead actually outlines our key strengths. Women, he said jokingly, can't add up. When I asked him what he meant, he said, for women, 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 don't make 4. What do they make? I said, expecting him to say 5 or 3. But no. Just 1 and 1 and 1 and 1, he said. Peals of ironic laughter. This ability to take on complexities is a diffused space that is full of potential for women, writing, saying, thinking, being. In agree again. It is already getting around. At what rate? In what contexts? In spite of what resistances? That women diffuse themselves according to models scarcely compatible with the framework of the ruling symbolics, which doesn't happen without causing some turbulence. We might even say whirlwinds. That ought to be reconfined within solid walls of principle, to keep them from spreading to infinity. She says this in her text, the sex which is not one. Instead, we can and actively do take on otherness. Again, in agree. Strictly speaking, one cannot say that she mimics anything, for that would suppose a certain intention, a project, a minimum of consciousness. She instead is pure mimicry, which is always the case for inferior species, of course. Needing to define essences, her function requires that she herself have no definition. Speculum of the other woman. These notions offer very broad and fecund spaces for feminist writers, poets, and theorists to reclaim, voice and reshape, knowledge claims, of what it is to say. What of my own methods, you ask? I am engaged in becoming the method of my own methods. I listen carefully to the sound and language and write it. I ventriloquize women's voices. I multiply origins. Dissociating significations, I excavate voids, condense givens, ply and weave mannerisms. I embrace interferences and seek out and valorize polyphonies. I am engaged in confusing genres and neutralizing techniques and media and understand this as a creative and politically creative method. I am a paradox-sounding language. A multitude of multitudes. This is a method that produces notions and writing as scores of possibilities. It weaves possibilities into seemingly authentic calculations, a practice like that of Ada Countess of Lovelace. It is a method that gives rise to monsters with voices, and monstrous voices. Wittig, in the Gorillas, speaks of this colorful monster as in a permanent state of singing. Somewhere there is a siren. Her green body is covered with scales. Her face is bare. The undersides of her arms are a rosy color. Sometimes she begins to sing. The women say that of her song nothing is to be heard but a continuous song. That is why this song evokes for them, like everything that recalls the zero, the circle, the vulvar ring. Paraphrasing the boys who rode 1,000 plateaus. Transpierce the mountains instead of scaling them, excavate the land instead of straightening it, or be its voice. Bore holes in space instead of keeping it smooth and closed, turn the earth into Swiss cheese, or milk, our milk of words. Turn the frames of the noon, the strictures of grammar, the separations of disciplines, into their own gaping holes. My method through this notion is a call to making these frames and language our creative zero. Wittig. At this stage, one must interrupt the calculations and begin again at zero. If one makes no mistake with the calculations, if one jumps with both feet together at just the right moment, one will not fall into the snake pit. If one makes no mistakes in the calculations, if one bends down at just the right moment, one will not be caught in the jaws of the trap. At this stage, one must interrupt the calculations and begin again at zero. Zero as a starting and being in point. 0 plus 1. Plus 1 plus 1. Wittig, and my own work continues her project. Urges us to take time, consider this new species that seeks a new language. Listening to our own tongues. Listen for it. Make an effort to invent it. Make an effort. And invent if you have to, invention.